because our students, as we know them, are not fully geared to write dissertation at this level. So we are very moderate in our demands. What we are seeking is not a dissertation, but a small kind of a research endeavor from your side. Because the word limit of 4,000, 6,000 doesn't make a dissertation. But yes, because we are beginning for the first time, we are starting this for the first time, and our students are not to that extent accustomed to do these kind of things. Therefore, we have kept the word limit, from 4,000 words to 6,000 words, which I've already told you is rather too low. Other redeeming feature of this paper, and this would also give you part of some relief, that this dissertation would be evaluated at the level of the department only, and that you will be graded. You will not be given marks. Those who get the lowermost grade, which I've forgotten to be, they would not get their degree unless they get the upper 3-4 grades. So take this dissertation seriously. Ensure that you don't fail it, because if you fail it, you don't get your degree. Dissertation would be mentioned on your DMC, on your detailed marks card, along with your grade. So this would have a significant bearing on your DMC, and eventually if you go to the market for a job, this would reflect on your DMC. So therefore I would say, take it seriously. But I've told you, we are not expecting much at this level. We do not expect you to write groundbreaking research work. In fact, we are, as I said, we are very moderate in our expectations. We are expecting some kind of thinking on your part, some kind of innovative thinking.
I'm recording of Professor Akshay Kumar.
See, let me tell you before I tell what dissertation is, what research is not. Obviously, downloading material from internet is not research. If you download certain articles, if you download certain research papers, this would not constitute dissertation. In fact, we have anti-plagiarism software in place. Every dissertation that you will submit would be subjected to a plagiarism check. And in the department, we have anti-plagiarism software. So immediately they'll tell you that this dissertation or these passages, these parts of the dissertation are plagiarized, and therefore you may be asked to rewrite again, or you might fail it.
Actually,
only a certain limit, maybe 10-15% of plagiarism we accept, but beyond that we reject the thesis and you might fail it. So please, let me give you a stern warning. Please do not download material from internet, because all internet material is factored in our anti-plagiarism software. So one thing is very clear, that downloading material, lifting material, borrowing material from the internet, from Google is not research. Even from the books in the library, even from the printing material in the library, it is not research. Number two, I know this has been our habit of our students at undergraduate level. There is no cut and paste mechanism that is going to help you. You can't pick up a line from one source and a line from another source, a line from yet another third source or fourth source, and you can't just put them into some running argument. That would not constitute research. So I'm repeating myself right in the beginning, that do not plagiarize either from the internet or any other print sources. Do not indulge in cut and paste exercise. So the pressure on you now would be to write in your own words. Writing in your own words would mean that the effort is patently yours. Nobody can claim that you have stolen your words, you have stolen from your paragraphs, your passages from some other source, which is already in public domain. Number three, Classroom notes do not constitute research work. If you paraphrase a poem, if you summarize a poem, if you write a central idea of a poem, if you write a character sketch of a character in a play or in a novel, if you talk about the structural makeup of a novel, if you talk about the opening scene or the ending scene of a drama, or you talk about such things which you get in your BA and MA at master's level examination, they do not constitute research. Is that right? They would not constitute research at any level. So rehearsing your MA notes, rehearsing your BA notes do not constitute research.
But
you just cannot reproduce, recycle old note that you wrote in BA or old note that you wrote in MA, and you that would not work as.
Disciplined हो जाता बंदा बहुत ज़्यादा ना, you really get disciplined and physical fitness to be like.
I told you right in the beginning 3 things. Now let me repeat, because I'm repeating it because these are the things which you have to take extra care. Responsibility is singularly yours. No plagiarism, no cut and paste, and no recycling of your BA and MA notes. And I don't want to, I hope that you don't become nervous with this, because please, this is the time. This is time for you now to grow out of that old habit of borrowing material from anywhere and regurgitating it in the examination. This dissertation is a chance to express in your words a research problem that you encounter. So the first thing, so then I've started rather negatively, that what is it that does not constitute research? Let me now say things in a positive way. What is it that constitutes research? First of all, when you go for a research, you have to have a research problem, what we call a research question. If you encounter a problem, if you come across an issue, only then you will put your research endeavor. You can't research the researched. You can't reinvent the wheel, as they say. So you encounter a research problem somewhere, everywhere. I mean, this is common sense. That there is even for a mechanic, if he finds some fault in the thing that he produces, that would become an issue for him. He wants to solve it. Research is an endeavor to solve a problem. Now, whether this research would lead to a solution is another question. But a sincere attempt was made to address the problem. Sometimes you are able to solve the problem. Sometimes you are only able to make slight headway. Your problem still remains unsolved. So the first important thing when you write your dissertation, when you plan to write a dissertation, when you launch yourself to write a dissertation, you have to identify a research problem. And that is a very critical issue, because finding a research problem is a huge issue. Each one of you, let me tell you another thing, that if there are 90 students, there will be 90 different theses. You can't say, well, I'm writing on the same topic. You can't write on the same topic. Each research dissertation will have its own distinct singular topic. And that topic would reflect the research question and the research problem, which the researcher eventually then goes to address. Now, what is research question? And how do you encounter it? You have to have that curious mind, that investigative mind, that interrogative mind to locate a research problem. There is no ready-made recipe that I can give to you. Well, this is the research problem. For 90 students, there will be 90 different research problems. For instance, I can give you a number of examples. I'm not suggesting you a topic, by the way. Each one will have to think on his or her own level. I can just give you examples to help you navigate through the complexities, through the initial, as they say, teething troubles. For instance, I mean, you come across portrayal of a woman in a particular novel, and you see the woman is described in a particular way. And then you read another novel and you find a different kind of a description of women. So you then begin to understand, then you begin to question, how come that there are two women characters in two different novels? And one is portrayed in these many terms, other is portrayed in exactly the opposite terms, and both are writing in the same environment. How come? This is a such problem. Then you begin to look into the reason that how come a women, say in mid-30s in one novel and mid-30s in another novel, both are portrayed in different terms. You begin to compare them, you begin to look into them, that what led to the different kind of a description of women. Is this because the situations are different? Is this, or, so you have to be a little alert when you read anything. These days, these are corona times, these are pandemic times. Question should come to you that how is literature responding to corona? It's such problem. How is corona being written? Written means understand. I mean, this is something new. This is something unprecedented. So how are writers writing? How are writers coping up with this? Are they inventing a new language? Are they inventing new templates? As a researcher, as you see when you read a poem, that how is a modern poet dealing with or coming to terms with a new thing? For this, there is no language with us. For this, there is no mythological framework with us. There is no historical experience with us. How does he write it? So the research problem would be that how does a writer write the experience of corona? And in this process, does he invent new language? Does he create new adjectives? Does he create new narrative? What is he doing? So I'm just giving examples that you have to find, these are the ways you can discover such problems. When you, for instance, when you read a poem, you find that there are 5-6 metaphors are used in the poem. You think that these metaphors are for a naive mind, he will simply paraphrase and think these metaphors are connected with each other in a very organic way. But for an investigative mind, you will find that this metaphor in one line has a particular kind of orientation, in another line there's another orientation. So you think that you could talk about the dissonance within the poem. This we have not done. Researchers often, we read poems as linear arguments. We read poems as very fairly organic arguments. We don't discuss poems where there could be different noises in the poem. And the poem, so as an investigative mind, you have to have that investigative eye. You say one metaphor says something, the other metaphor goes in the opposite direction, the third metaphor, and you might rip apart the poem. So when you read a short story, I mean, I'm giving examples. I'm giving a number of examples to you, and hopefully you can pick some clue from it. You have the basic point which I'm trying to hammer here is this, that without a search problem, you cannot start. You read 2 short stories for me. You read a short story and you find a short story is about a child, for that matter. And you read another short story and that also is about a child. And you find the description of the 2 children in 2 stories are very different. Then you find out the reasons. In one story, the child could be very innocent, very naive. In other story, the child could be very, he could be a brat, he could be extremely clever. So you find out. What is the politics of portraying child in one story as innocent, in the other story as a brat? So you look behind all these things. I'm giving you, and I tell you, for you, one of the ready-made ways of going about research could be you compare things. Compare one text with the text. And when you compare, pick up one common thread. For instance, you pick up a story. I mean, look at this, pick up a story in which I've told you there's a child, and another story also which also has a child at the center. And look how these two descriptions are very dissimilar. Is there a politics behind this kind of a, this word is very important. This is also a word. For everything you read, there is a politics behind. Everything you read, there is a politics behind. Why is somebody's portrayed the way he's portrayed? That becomes a such question. You can pick up, as somebody says, of the same writer, you can pick up different writers. You can pick up a writer from different time spans. You can talk about how the description of a child in 1930s was different, how it becomes different, what shape does it take in 1950s, what shape does it take in 1990s. Pick up 3 stories, child-centric stories, and show how the description of child has undergone a change in the 3 stories. For instance, you pick up, anything. I mean, I'm just giving examples to you. Pick up how, say, a classroom is depicted in a short story. The classroom of the 1990s, classroom of the 1950s, and classroom of the 2020s. See, are there differences? Just map them. And your research problem would be, does classroom have a standard protocol, or does it change with time? Is childhood described uniformly alike, or does it vary from time to time? These are the such issues that you can pick up. You understand? You can pick up. See, what I'm saying is that for every text you read, that then it will offer you a research issue. It only requires a curious, mind, and some kind of an inquisitive mind. So what I'm saying to you is that you can go across. I'm still talking about novels. I'm still talking about short stories. I'm still talking about poems. You can talk about teleserials also. I mean, I'm opening the field for you. There could be such problems also in the way you look at it. Say, stand-up comedy, or say a documentary, or a cinema, popular cinema. You remember that we have expanded the so to say scope of literature, and we are now free. We are now open enough to include problems that students discover in visual medium, in audio medium. For instance, you read a biography of Gandhi in print, in verbal medium, and you read a biography of Gandhi in graphic medium. There are graphic biographies of Gandhi available. Then you say, what is the difference between the 2 modes of portrayal? You understand, there is a biography of Ambedkar in print, there is a biography of Ambedkar in graphic medium. So you can compare the 2. Somebody asked, what about video games as a medium? Yes, why not? One can write, how is Indian video games different from Western video games? How are Indian characters portrayed in video games? You understand? You can see the field is wide open. I mean, you can pick up biographies. You can pick up autobiographies.
Hello.
In autobiographies, you can see what modes you pick up 3 autobiographies, 2 autobiographies, and see that what is it that the writer talks about? What is it that he excludes? What is it that includes? There is always a politics of writing about oneself. What does he include? What doesn't? You read 2 biographies, 3 autobiographies. I would say 3 is a good figure for you to attempt a dissertation. You pick up 3 autobiographies and you say, well, look, in these 3 autobiographies, you find a uniform pattern emerging. That these writers are writing about only one kind of experience and they're excluding other kind of experience. Just point out that. That would become a dissertation for your purposes. What is it that these 3 autobiographies talk about preeminently, and what is it that these 3 autobiographies deliberately obliterate or neglect or erase? So you have to find out that this would depend upon your reading outside the syllabus, extra reading outside the syllabus. You can read newspaper letters, you can read newspaper editorials, you can talk about the cartoons that come in the newspaper, the captions that are given to the newspaper, the cartoons. It all depends upon with which eye you look at, you approach these different texts. So somebody says we need to take one topic and write. No, it's not a question of topic. It's a question of what is this? What do you mean a topic in a research thesis? It's your research question would be your research topic. Your research question that should come right in the topic. Your research question is, for instance, if my research question is the different portrayals of children in fiction or in short stories, I'll say, multiple frames of representing children, or different portrayals of childhood, a critical study. You can say, when I say there's a graphic portrayal of Gandhi, there's an Amar Chitra Katha of Gandhi, there is a simple print medium autobiography of Gandhi. So you can compare an Amar Chitra Katha on Gandhi and the Gandhi's biography in print medium. And you can talk about, your question would be portrayal of Gandhi across mediums. One is your print medium, other is the graphic medium. As I said, for you come across 3 novels about, say, rights, about violence. So you can look at it, how is violence written there? Do writers invoke different kind of vocabulary to write about rights? Is right any other violence? So what kind of vocabulary there? So you can build some kind of a corpus, some kind of a, you understand, you can build up linguistic corpus of writing rights for that matter. You see, somebody says, can you please share some examples of it? See, you go to the library, you'll find 100 examples. I mean, I'm not supposed to give you examples of dissertation writings here. I'm just giving you research. I'm positing issues before you. And by way of example, you can go and explore yourself. So at the level of language, you can talk about, such things. That why is a writer using particular noun or particular adjective time and again? If in a novel or in the stories of a writer you find a particular kind of vocabulary is used, why is he using this kind of vocabulary? You have to investigate the reasons of this. There could be cultural reasons, there could be political reasons, There could be economic market-driven reasons. You never know. So as researchers, you have to go behind what is visible to you, which is, research is not easily accessible to the naked eye. Research is always going, beyond what is visible to you, looking beneath and below. In research, the important question is why? Why is writer writing in this way? Why is he representing a particular thing, a particular experience, a particular situation in this particular way? That would constitute a research problem. So as I said, you can go to autobiographies, you can go to films. In films, for instance, the whole issue is why should a one film be remade or reproduced? You have now sequel. For instance, there are sequels of films. You can talk about this rise. People have this Coolie number 1, Coolie number 2, Coolie number 3. This sequel. What is the reason of the sequels? One can write a paper on this also. That why are producers now producing sequels of the blockbusters? You can talk about a novel adapted into a movie. And you can talk about, in this process of adaptation, is there a cultural gain? Is there a deficit? What are the reasons? Why should a novel be adapted into a film? And with what intended result? And with what intent? What kind of a target audience? Adaptation studies. You can pick up a film like Ankara, like Maqbool, and compare it with the original plays of Shakespeare on which these films are presumably based, and see what are the departures that an Indian filmmaker has done. You can find out, give the reasons for that. Identifying departure is only half the research. As a good researcher, you have to give the reasons of that departure. Why has the filmmaker, the contemporary filmmaker, while using Shakespeare's play as his script, departed from him in certain places in the film? Why? That question is why is very important. So even translation. I mean, you read a short story in Punjabi or in Hindi and you read its English version, and you find, if you feel this English version is bad or good or better or worse, you talk about the processes of translation, and in this process, is there a gain made? Is there a misrepresentation? You can talk about these things. Pick up two texts, one the original text, other the translated one, and compare and see. You can at this level, at master, if you can identify the problems in the equivalences, you find a particular word has been mistranslated, you point out, then you suggest your alternative and the cultural reasons behind that. Identification of departures, deviations is one part of the job. When I said two children are portrayed, to talk about two different representations, that is one. But why are they two different? That is the second. This is where your research becomes more, should I say, little profound. A writer is writing in India, and then after, say in 1960s he was in India. He used to write short stories in India. For the last 20 years, he's now living in America and he's writing stories from there. Now you find his story written in 2020 and a story written in 1980 when he was in India. See, is there a difference in language? Has his location made any difference in the language that he uses? You understand? A writer, for instance, is writing in India in 1970s, and thereafter he migrates to America. And he writes a story in 2020. So you then as a researcher will find that Has the new story a new kind of a language, a new kind of a narrative, a new kind of a, ending, or a new kind of a beginning? You can compare the two stories of the same writer also to mark the changes in his character. My argument is simple, that I am suggesting you this argumentative, these comparative, because comparisons at this your level are immensely doable. There are people who work singularly on a text. For that, you require more microscopic reading skills. I mean, translation is an immensely fertile field for you. What does it require at this your level? At this level, pick up two short stories, pick up 2 poems, pick up 2 novels if you wish. Novels are little longer text, but you can pick up 2 novels and see that are these comparisons, are these translations faithful, experimental? It will depend upon your analysis, what results you reach at. So you have to have that research mind, that I've said, that interrogative mind. For instance, when you read a novel today and the novel is in translation, say Story of Prem Chand in Hindi, and as a research mind, you go back to that story in Hindi also. And when you compare the Hindi story and the English story and the English translation of that story, and you find some kind of a mismatch, or you find that English mismatch doesn't mean, I'm talking mismatch in the sense that it is not necessarily derogatory. Mismatch could also be to the advantage of the, you never know in a translation the story might gain. So there are almost, these are, I'm giving you almost ready-made possibilities here. Ready-made possibilities, one, you pick up film which are adapted on novels. You can pick up the whole idea of sequel films. What is the reason for this, a movie which is blockbuster, another sequel is made on it? What are does that make a comfortable sequel? How does it borrow from the previous movie? Does it constitute a smooth sequel? Questions like this. You understand? You can talk about even a newspaper, a primetime debate show. You can make that even a such use. How is this news that is given now different from a news that was given in Doordarshan days? What are the changes that the news has gone? The news presentation has undergone. More drama, more melodrama, more, so to say, a degree of, music and melodrama and computer, graphics and all those things. How the news today has become a kind of an activity of performance. You understand what? You can now pick up. I'm giving you a comparative frame. Pick up a news. You'll go to YouTube. You'll find a news program of the Doordarshan days, and pick up a news program of 2020, and see how the very art of presenting news has undergone a change. You can even study. Film lyrics. You find why I mean, these are interesting topics. You pick up lyrics of 60s and you pick up lyrics of 2020 and see are the lyrics, what kind of changes the lyrics have undergone in terms of I think the better you stick to the language aspect of it, because students of literature stick to the language aspect of it. How the language has undergone a change. You can write a full dissertation on the culture of remixing, how the lyrics are remixed. You can write on this. First of all, you talk about why has this culture come and what are the things that are remixed. So things are happening all around you. And for everything, it's a question of why this paper is important to you. It is important for you, this paper, because this would stir in you some thinking, some curiosity. Instead of receiving things on the face value, now you are trying to understand the designs beneath, the politics beneath. This particular aspect which I'm talking to you, that if you can, look at it, we all receive rap music or film music rather passively. It's a question of looking at it seriously. Why our lyrics have become, suddenly there used to be a lot of literary value to the lyrics earlier. Today the lyrics are non-literary. You can talk about how, of course you can talk about the language that lyrics use these days. The objectification of women, the commodification of women in lyrics. You can talk about Javed Akhtar as a film lyricist and Javed Akhtar as a shair. See the difference. You can talk about Sahir Ludhianvi as a film lyricist and as an autonomous Urdu poet. You can talk about Kafi Azmi as a film lyricist and as a poet. When a poem is transformed into a lyric, what changes does a poet bring about? There are many poems of Kafi Azmi which were independent poems, but when they were transformed into lyrics, he made certain alterations. You might call them compromises. Why did he do all those alterations? You study that, point out that. That is a research issue. That is a research question. And the larger question would be, should poetry be redesigned for film lyrics? And I tell you, in fact, it's not that you work only on writings which are available in English. You can work on Hindi writings, you can work on Punjabi writings, but everything that you write has to be written in English only. And if you choose your Punjabi text or a Hindi text as your prime text, ensure that you translate these texts in your own, you translate these texts, or these texts are otherwise available in translation. That is, you may pick up any primary text, but the thesis has to be written in English only. And the text that you pick up are to be, if you have to quote from the text, please translate either yourself, or if the translation is available, nothing like it. If the translation is available, then the matter is resolved. Otherwise, you have to ensure that you translate the text, and therefore, this would become a task a little difficult because you have to translate and also deal with the text at a critical level. So my argument to my first proposition to use when you write thesis is, you have to identify a viable problem. After all, before you write, you must have an issue in mind, some pressing problem in your mind. And without that, you cannot write. You go to a hotel and you say the way the different dishes are named in different languages. Pick up the menu card, use that as text and write your dissertation on that. What kind of language these people are using? Wherever you come across the use of language, be it on the, for instance, why don't you work on advertisements? The cola ads. How one cola ad talks to another cola ad. This is happening. For instance, I mean, if you can, a Pepsi Cola ad would be a kind of a rejoinder on, say, a Thumbs Up or a Sprite. Compare 3 cola ads and find out the connections. Look at the element of poetry in advertisements. The use of language, very precise languages in ads. Look at the changing nature of ads on the social media. You can also work on the kind of poetry that is being written on the social media. There are people who have written full-length PhDs on the slogans written on the trucks. You can, as I said, we read these slogans casually, but we don't understand the cultural connotations, the cultural, ramifications of such slogans. You have to, I'm not giving you areas, I'm just talking about that. As I said, for anything that everything that you see in the visual medium, in the print medium, in the verbal medium, there is a question lurking behind. There's a question lurking behind. And already I've liberated you from language limitations. If you can pick up any language which you are comfortable. You just pick up one stand-up comedy, use that as the primary text, and tell that what are the the kind of jokes and the kind of other tricks that the comedian plays. What are the sources of that? Just focus on that. In fact, there's also one kind of research. If you read a poem and you think this poem you think this poem bears a relationship with some other text which you read somewhere else.
अनार छील दो, अनार खा लो, जो टिक्का चाट, मम्मा थोड़ा ऑफिस का काम कर।